Hello students, myself Shailender Kumar, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Jaipur, Rajasthan. Today I am going to discuss on the topic community radio. In India, the campaign of community radio started in the mid 90s soon after the Supreme Court of India approved the idea, passed on its judgment in the month of February 1995 and declared airwaves are public property. Community radio is the third tier of radio broadcasting in India, the first two being public service and private broadcasting. Thus, the community radio is that sector of radio which is owned by localized geographical communities wherein participation, ownership, and daily management of the radio station is by the same community the radio seeks to serve. Community radio usually is a short range, not for profit radio station or channel that caters for the information needs of people living in a particular locality in the language and format that are most adapted to the local context. Community radio stations can be mobilized for campaigns, for example, by announcing campaign events, hosting talk shows with campaigners, or playing the campaign radio jingle and songs. A typical community radio station is characterized by programs which are produced by local people in the local language or dialect and talks about locally relevant issues. It is different from public radio because public service radio typically caters to a much larger audience, and most of the programming is done by broadcasting professionals. In community radio, the audience is limited to a few villages or localities, and the programming is done by local people who mostly have had no prior experience in radio. Finally, community radio is a medium which is recognized globally in helping the community marginalized people express their opinion on various matters concerning the community, as well as talk about local development issues, both of which private and public service radio can only do to a very limited extent. As community radio is usually run by volunteers using low cost technology, it tends to be easy to obtain free or inexpensive airtime. It offers an opportunity for contribution by people whose voice is not much heard on national radio, which can be highly empowering. Community radio reaches a large section of the locality it covers, as listeners tend to be interested in local issues. It is also an excellent way to communicate with communities whose main language is not the official national language. Community radio had already become a reality in many parts of the world. The 1995 Supreme Court judgment that airwaves are public property also generated a discussion within civil society organizations working on community driven media. Neighboring nations such as Nepal had already experienced the experience with community radio since the early 90s. In Nepal, the NGO Equal Access, with support from the United Nations Trust Fund to end violence against women in partnership with General Welfare, trained rural women as community radio reporters. They collected stories from other rural women to create a radio program, Changing Our World, which reached 2 million listeners It covered issues relating to women's human rights, peace building, and violence against women. In parallel, 60 community listener groups were established to encourage grassroots leadership and changes in attitudes and behavior. The World Association of Community Radio Broadcaster AMARC brings together a 4,000 strong network all over the world and supports the community radio movement. Information on radio stations and events and conferences related to community radio can be found on its website in English, Spanish, and French. In rural areas of low income countries, it is often the adult man in the household who control radio ownership and use in households. In the contest, you need to reach out to women by using other channels, picking the times of the day for broadcast when women are likely to be alone at home, or by recording and playing radio programs at places where women meet. Example, as part of women's self-help and microfinance group meetings. If you consider creating your own radio station for a community campaign lasting several years, find out about local regulations and organizations that can provide the necessary training. This is women-centered radio programming that promotes non-sexist communications, non-stereotyping, and focuses on issues affecting women and girls. Many feminist radio organizations are community-based, broadcasting increasingly over the internet as well to reach a wider audience. Examples of feminist radio organizations include Women's International News Gathering Service Wings Canada, Feminist International Radio Endeavor FIRE, Costa Rica in English and Spanish, the Women's Radio Fund USA, Mama FM Uganda, Radio Al Mahaba Iraq, NISA Palestine, and AMARC Women's International Network hosted by AMARC Global. A list of feminist radio organizations can be found at the Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press. Civil society activism resulted in a joint activism and advocacy agenda called the Pastapur Declaration in 1998. The declaration was so named after the venue Pastapur in Medak district, Andhra Pradesh, where discussions were held and the declaration adopted. This became the framework for further discussion with the government. Sustained advocacy with the government of India resulted in the first community radio policy in 2002, which allows education institutes across the country to set up small scale radio stations supported by several international agencies such as UNESCO and UNDP, civil society organizations and government functionaries continued tracing out revisions to the 2002 policy, which was only partially enabling. This resulted in the revised CR policy guidelines of November 2006, which allowed registered civil society organizations also to apply for CR licenses, and which forms the current framework for CR in India. In December 2002, the Government of India approved policy for the grant of licensing for setting up community radio stations to well-established educational institutes, including IITs and IIMs, on 1st Feb 2004. Anna FM was launched as India's first campus community radio station by the students of Anna University. In 2006, the government of India amended the community radio policy, which allowed the agriculture universities, education institutes, and civil societies institutes such as NGOs to apply for a community radio broadcasting license under the FM band 88 to 108 megahertz. First NGO operated community radio in India was Sangam Radio licensed to Deccan Development Society, which started broadcasting in 2008 in Pastapur village, Medak district, Andhra Pradesh. Anna FM is the first India campus community radio launched on 1st February 2004, controlled by the Education and Multimedia Research Center (EMRC), and the students of media sciences at Anna University produce all programs. Community radio is a type of radio service that offers a third model of radio broadcasting beyond commercial and public service. Community stations can serve geographic communities of interest. They broadcast contents that is popular to a local specific audience, but which may often be overlooked by commercial or mass media broadcasters. Community radio stations are operated, owned, and driven by communities they serve. Community radio is not for profit and provides a mechanism for facilitating individuals, groups, and communities to tell their own diverse stories, to share experiences, and in a media rich world to become active creator and contributor of media. The Indian sector of community radio is perhaps the only one in Asia which is separate and distinct from private and public radio broadcasting. This sector, as per current policy guidelines, is mainly framed in terms of development and improving quality of life for communities radio seeks to serve. This includes women's issues, health, education, culture, local music, economic and social development, etc. The key concept of community radio is that of giving the voiceless a voice. Even in places where there is extreme poverty, it has been shown through many studies that what people value the most is to have a voice. This means that they value their right to speak out on what has affected them, speak out on their identity, and speak to document their ways of life, cultures, and traditions. Therefore, community radio is often seen as giving a voice to those who are often voiceless. This means that community radio should always prefer those who are marginalized in a society and giving them an opportunity to speak. For example, in India, community radio could provide opportunities to communities belonging to the Dalits, minorities, sex workers, people with disabilities, senior citizens, tribals, etc. The State Talk Foundation Uganda offers a crisp 33-page manual using radio to help communities talk, a manual for community dialogue 2006 on the essentials of community radio, including basic guidance on technical issues. The Community Radio Toolkit is a website providing links to resources on practical issues related to community radio, such as station management, sales and advertisements, programming, research and evaluation, and engaging volunteers. UNESCO has published a series of guides on community radio. The 100-page Community Radio Handbook covers all aspects of community radio and includes fairly extensive case studies from different continents. How to do community radio, a primer for community radio operators. by Louis Tabbing, UNESCO 2002 gives detailed technical guidance in 70 pages. Community Radio, a user's guide to the technology by N. Ramakrishnan, is the most up-to-date and comprehensive UNESCO technical guide on community radio. It covers all technical aspects, including almost 100 pages on equipment. Although the document is chiefly targeted on Indian and South Asian audiences, it contains valuable general information applicable to other audiences. The Indian organization Gram Vani Community Radio 2008 provides an extensive online guide on community radio with a particular focus on India. It includes strategic and technical guidance, information on cost, and a host of useful links which are also valid in other contents. The World Association of Community Radio AMARC offers comprehensive information on how to use audio, video, and print media, how to conduct evaluations, provides links to media networks in all regions, and a collaboration space for members. The website is available in English, French, and Spanish. The AMARC site hosts the AMRC Women's Network on a special page which includes links to major international campaigns and events on women's rights. AMARC, the colorful guide on creating participatory radio with children by community media for development productions, explains how children can be involved in producing radio programs such as drama. In addition to this, the concept of community radio is strongly associated with many other values, including that of better governance, documenting and using languages, oral histories and cultures, promoting gender equality and sensitivity, as well as educating and entertaining its community. One of the first community radio stations to be started in the world was a radio station started by miners in Bolivia in the 1940s. The radio station was mainly supposed to represent the issues related to the mining industry in Bolivia from the workers' point of view. Since then, community radio has spread rapidly in the most part of the world, with South Asian countries like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Bhutan being relatively late entrants. In Latin America, countries like Brazil, Guatemala, Argentina, community radio stations are heavily political in nature. They are connected to people's movements, which are usually connected to issues concerning people's right on topics such as the right to choose a political candidate, right to education, etc. Further, the social and developmental role of the church has been recognized, and religious institutions like the church have been allowed to broadcast on radio. In European countries, the community radio movement has been mainly seen as a strong alternative to mainstream media. Often these community radio stations represent viewpoints and opinion of the people on the street which are often missing in mainstream and private media. These radio stations also give opportunities to independent musicians and folk artists who do not get a chance to play their music on other media. In Africa and now in Asia, community radio has been largely seen as a medium which can help in development of the people and improve their quality of life. Now, community radio broadcast code. Community radio will not permit the following: criticism of friendly countries, attack on religion or communities, anything offense or defamatory, incitement to violence or anything against mainstream of law and order, anything amounting to contempt of court, aspersion against the integrity of the president, governors, and the judiciary, attack on a political party by name, hostile criticism of any state or center, anything showing disrespect to the constitution or advocating change in the constitution by violence means, but advocating changes in a constitutional way should not be debarred. While station director, station manager would have power to refuse a broadcast which does not respect the code, a dispute involving a minister of state government has to be referred to the Ministry of Environment for final decision. At present, there are 300, more than 300 functioning community radio stations in India. At present, Odisha and Tamil Nadu have maximum number of community radio stations, and the numbers are slowly increasing in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Of the total number of community radio stations, about 200 of them are licensed to education institutions or agriculture centers, Krishi Vigyan Kendras. The rest of them are licensed to community-based organizations or civil society institutions. There are many community radio stations that are broadcasting only fresh content on a daily basis, but majority of them are repeating content from the same day or previous day broadcast. There are government advertisements from various ministries available, but CR stations have to impanel themselves with the Bureau of Outreach and Communication (BOC) to avail of the advertisements. Sponsored programs are also available in BOC via BOC. In addition, CR stations can also broadcast commercials related to local goods and services. Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is planning to introduce a centrally administered scheme to fund community radio stations through various activities including setting up and capacity building. One of the problems with community radio stations in India is the is its uneven distribution across the geography of the country. Most of the community radio stations are located in urban centers or semi-urban centers. There are none or very few community radio stations in very remote, rural, conflict, border and coastal areas of the country. For example, at present, there are no community radio stations in Jharkhand or large parts of the northeast. Now summarize this topic. Community radio is a local radio and gives voice to voiceless. Community radio is not for the profit but for betterment of the society. The reach of community radio is 5 to 10 kilometers. Community radio creates awareness. 50% of the programs in local languages deal with local issues. The height of community radio antenna is 15 to 30 meters. %50 content programs in local languages with the participation of local community. Community radio station is all programs broadcasted on CR for 3 months. Community radio station shall not broadcast programs related to news and current affairs and political in nature. Finally, the concept of community radio can be summed up in the words of Louis Tebing, a community radio pioneer from the Philippines, who said community radio can give a community member the opportunity to be you, be new, and be too. Thank you.